recognise you. We had a conversation on my doorstep.
He
Yes.
did tell me that.
Hi, nice to see you again on this platform.
Yes.
You all right?
Yes, I am very well.
You might need a pivot on the old mics. Just give it a good pull, as they say.
Yeah. But just a bit better.
I'm too
Yeah,
There
you're
you
too
go,
tall.
that's it,
We've
perfect.
he said it so it's really directional. So, although I think after the last conversation, everyone seems to be hooked into the conversation now.
Yes.
So, well done, Lewis. And also, Lewis, I was checking back on the comments. There's loads of love and support for you that will come off this. Awesome. So Richard was booked to come on and talk about his lived experience, which, if we get a chance, we must give time to. And maybe that will happen today, maybe it will happen another time.
Okay, no problem.
But actually, when Ian said he was around, I was like, well, here we go, right? We've got the chair of St Neots Initiative. We've got our MP. Let's have a talk about place. Let's talk about the future of place and how do we include well-being in that conversation. How do we build an inclusive economy that includes conversations about how we look after each other and the elders, and how do we connect things? And I know, because I see it in here every day, and sometimes both of you are participants in that conversation, in those conversations where it's like, well, here's what we can do. And actually the Citizen Hub is a prime example of this, right? So the job set, so when we first launched, Ian come to the launch, said, Alex, what can I do? I said, well, I need the job centre work coaches in here. I don't want them in Huntingdon, I need them in here. Within a week, he's stood up in Parliament, saying to Liz Kendall at the time, highlighting the project, what we need to get these job centre work coaches in here. I'll get called down to the Parliament, we have a great meeting with your team, have a conversation with DWP. Suddenly all the barriers are removed from DWP and we have job centre work coaches in the Citizen Hub. And to you might say that's a small intervention, which for you, in the grand scheme of everything you're working on, that may well be. But it shows highlight where you can, in your position of power, influence different things within our communities that make things happen. In the same light, when we're having cross conversations, sometimes, even when Ian's in the room, I might say, Richard, we'll just deal with that one ourselves, shall we? AKA, financial hubs and whatever else that may well come. And I think that's the beauty, and that's fine, because you can't do it all. We were talking this earlier. It's like that grassroots, that's important. That's where that innovation is going to take place. That rebellious energy is good energy. And I wanted to just invite you both to the conversation to say, what do you think about some of that?
Yeah, and just before you start, first of all, politics and me, that's all I'm going to say. But actually, it's born out of me feeling that there has never really been any interaction whatsoever with any MPs who gave a damn. Like, it was almost kind of like a top-down approach. They don't really care. Why on earth? I'm not even going to vote. That kind of mentality, which I'm totally not in, by the way. But, that kind of thing. And you knocked on my door one day.
I did.
And I was in a mood to talk.
Oh, brilliant.
And we chatted on my doorstep for about half an hour. And you kind of walked away from there knowing exactly how I felt about the infrastructure, or the lack of, and in lived experience of my children and what I wanted to see for them. And to hear that you've gone on and heard what's going on the ground and then implemented some of that into the areas to which you work in your role, it's heartening, and it's the first time I have ever seen it in St Neots, first of all. And second of all, to see that that's transferable to the places where you operate, listening to the people on the ground, has been absolutely wonderful to see. So thank you for representing that, actually.
Thank you.
Credit, and Ian will also be an advocate that will be the first to say I'm not easy to deal with most of the time. So that's not me saying, hey, everything's wonderful. That's me giving credit where credit's due.
That's absolutely.
Credit where credit's due. Yeah. So, Ian, do you want to introduce yourself and do you have an opening perspective around the future of kind of inclusive economy and well-being within St Neots?
Yeah, sure. For those that don't know me, I'm Ian Sollom. I'm the MP for St Neots and Mid-Cambridgeshire. So the constituency itself extends all the way east to the edge of Cambridge. But St Neots is obviously the major settlement and sort of quite a big focus of my attention. But actually across the constituency, the problems are the same. They're slightly different in in the villages from the town, but we're all sort of struggling along with all sorts of difficulties at the moment. Where it's sort of cost of living, particularly, is still really hard. You know, access to health services, access to mental health services has been a focus, and it's things like the Citizen Hub, where communities can come together, that really do make a difference. And what excited me when I first came to St Neots was the sense of ownership that people in St Neots take, and this part of the world take. There's a real sense of, you know what, things aren't happening, so we're going to try and do something ourselves.
We're a rebellious bunch.
And in a way that, you know, that makes my job easier. You know, yes, you know, I stood up and asked the question. I'm the one that stands up and asks the question of Liz Kendall in Parliament to say, can we please get the job coaches here? But there'd been all that background work done, both by really good people in DWP.
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to Julia Nix in particular, legend. Yeah,
she, you know, really wanted to see something happen. What I found really interesting about that whole process was you know, I didn't want to sort of feel like, he's asked a question and then something's happened, you know, when so many others had made that effort. But it was, what I later found out was that because it put Liz Kendall as the Secretary of State on the spot, and she was like, yeah, of course that's a good idea. That cut through a whole layer of bureaucracy in the
Honestly,
DWP.
I've never seen anything like it. The regional manager at the time said to me, in 30 years of working at DWP, I've never seen red tape removed like that. Because, like you say, spotlight's on.
Yes, and the work's been done.
The
it's
work's
not just
their
an idea,
relationship.
the solution's there, right?
The solution's there, that's the key. Yeah, that is key.
Yeah, so, I mean...
No, fair play.
You know, absolutely didn't want to take any glory, you know, overstate my role in that, because the hard work had been done by others. But it was really, really gratifying to be able to, you know, give that kick or that push in the right place.
Also, not to underplay your role, right? Your role in that was to take the idea to the place where the commission was granted. Do you know what I mean, almost? And one of the things that Alex and I always have chatted about before is that, there's so much great stuff, like, why are they not listening? Why are those gatekeepers the ones, why? And so for you to introduce that idea and be the gatekeeper is phenomenal. That's exactly what's needed, right?
And that's what, you know, a big part of my role is being able to try and make those connections in the right places, ask the right questions in the right places to get things moving. You know, a lot of the time, you know, you can find yourself, particularly as an opposition politician. So for those that don't know, I'm a Lib Dem, so I'm on the opposition benches. You can feel like you're banging your head against the wall, exactly the same as what you were saying. Why are they doing this? Why aren't they thinking? Why aren't they thinking this through? But there are those opportunities to just give that sort of gentle push here and there. And we've got so many great ideas in St Neots. There's so many good things happening.
It's the best town in the country.
Well,
simple as that.
I mean,
the end.
I would certainly agree. The thing is, there's probably 650 MPs that would 649 others that would say that. In fact, that when you first elected, you give your maiden speech, and it can be quite formulaic. It follows a standard form that you talk about your constituency rather than necessarily the topic of the debate. And if you listen to some of these, every single constituency is the best constituency in the country.
Of course they are.
But of course,
we are.
649 other MPs are wrong, and I'm
absolutely.
right.
Well done. You're all right. Yeah. Richard, where do your thoughts come in? Because you've come into, so you're not long-standing St Neots resident, are you? But the time you've been here, you've been pretty active. And in the work that you've been doing since you took over at St Neots Initiative in May last year.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You've been, I think you've been instrumental in, we talked about earlier, my role as a leader. If anyone doesn't know, I'm a wartime leader. I'm the bulldozer that comes in and causes a bit of mess. And then people like Richard come along, or Katie, as you met earlier.
Put some structure
and say,
around it.
Sorry about him, but he has got a point. Should we build some stuff around that? Where's your perspective on this conversation?
I think what St Neots Initiative can achieve is to create well-being across the geography of the town, not just within a really safe space like this, which is where we're based. And it's the space that creates very safe conversations, open conversations, a place where citizens can come along and follow a theme that we may be highlighting, or for the business leaders to come along and talk about the challenges that they've got. And we're an organisation that just listens, and that's something, credit to you, you set up. What we're now trying to do across the whole town is, having listened, create a bigger safe space, whether that's about the nighttime economy, whether that's a vibrant hospitality sector, whether that's creating a high street that is a high street that's got shops in it, as opposed to being turned into residential properties, whether it's the disappearance of banking, which happened way too soon before the community was ready for it.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things, and then picking it up and saying, actually, as we've done a few times, you know, we might be able to do something about this. Let's just have a go. Yeah. And people seem to like that approach. And to create spaces that are in the control of the community, create spaces that, as needs change, the reliance is on not on a landlord, but it's on a community group, a community interest company that maybe can change what it does to suit the needs of the community that it serves. So moving somewhere like this, kind of 2018, Sue and I moved here.
Sue's over there, legend. Got to give a big shout out to Sue. The listener award of the year for the Citizen Hub for the work she does.
Hey.
Sue volunteers here on just for the audience who don't know about the Chatty Cafe scheme in the Hub on a Friday morning. Sue not only gladly but like encouragingly brings others along her to hold a safe space for people that are kind of facing loneliness and isolation. It's
Love
amazing.
that.
It's amazing. Sorry.
And puts up with me.
If I'm going to interrupt you, it's for your wife. That's
fair.
fair.
News, fair news. God knows how she gets up with the challenges that I keep throwing down. But it's meeting really inspiring people. You know, we've talked about Inspired to Ignite and some of that young talent that is there. We want to do more around helping that young talent to develop, bring them on board with St Neots Initiative, help them drive the future. Yeah. And I've always felt that, you know, however old I do get, it's not a privilege everybody gets.
Amen.
To get old.
Amen.
And it's that dash on your gravestone that counts.
Beautiful.
Love that.
So one of the things that when we talked about this before, we wanted to get out of this conversation is around, so when we talk about turning up to a citizen gathering, right, or a business leaders gathering, or a topic on the future of banking and the high street, or sport, or the market square, or whatever these things are, things that affect our daily lives that people will tend to moan about at a coffee shop or on Facebook or whatever. What we're really talking about here is civic participation. We're saying, you know, if you engage, you will find solution,
Yep.
or at least you will find other people that care about the similar things. And we're at a time now, and actually it's the first line in the theory of change for the Citizen Hub. The first line states 75% of people don't trust politicians. That's the first line in our theory of change. And if you look at local voting at a local, like super local level, it's, you know, I don't know, 20 people turn up and you're in. No, it's not that bad, but do you know what I mean? It's not many people really that can get you into a position of reasonable power. Yeah. We need more people engaged in that. So, you know, I think it's helpful when there's cross-sector collaboration between public sector, non-profit organisations like St Neots Initiative and others in the town that are doing similar sort of work. I think it's helpful when someone comes into that space knowing that they can go on that route and go and speak to the council and go through meetings and stuff, whatever they do, that stuff. And that's fine. And then in some cases, it's okay to go, you know, actually, but I've got the energy. I just want to deal with this right now and do that. So where are we with civic participation in terms of locally? You said the first thing you said when it's just want to say I'm not really into politics.
Well, do you know what the irony is? I used to be a councillor, like back in the years and years ago.
What a shame.
When my children were tiny, I wanted to be part of my local community, so I became a local councillor. Councillor Bruce at the time, I might add.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, at the time.
It's got a nice ring.
But I left it because of the bureaucracy. I left it because there were people on there who weren't interested in the things that I were interested in. They were interested in party politics, even though you weren't supposed to be. It was very obvious, and I kind of became very, very desensitized and disenfranchised by it. I was like, oh, this is all rubbish. And then it kind of feeds this narrative around that's what politics is all about. And to your point about what's going on in St Neots right now, I know that there is a youth council, right? That is awesome.
Yeah,
like having a youth council that gives its perspective on what it needs. And I know that during our discussion, we spoke an awful lot about the lack of youth infrastructure in St Neots, and that they're left without nothing. And then they are complaining because they're then climbing onto the private centre next door where I live because they're bored. There's nothing to do. And I'm not excusing that behaviour for boredom, but you know what I mean? We were all kind of young at one point. There's nothing there. People will find stuff to do, right? So is that something that you think you're seeing from both your point of view? Is there something that where it's youth-led or user-led, and what's the difference? What's it making?
I mean, I think there are some good initiatives. I mean, the concern sometimes you can have about things like youth councils is that it just pulls in the people that are already interested in it. And so it's actually, you know, how do you reach out to places and parts of the community that are disengaged and don't see that opportunity to influence. And you have to show people that you're, and particularly young people, that you are actually listening. I mean, we've got this, you know, to zoom out, we've got this sort of demographic shift in, you know, where we've got lots and lots more older people in society and fewer younger people. And in a democratic system, you know, the weight of numbers makes a difference. So you know, politicians, you know, will start to listen to the majority because their majority is what that's how it works. That's fundamental of democracy. But that doesn't mean that, and for me, that's partly why I'm a liberal Democrat, because there's that tension in liberal democracy between the democracy part but the liberal part, and that freedom and ability for an individual to express themselves and live their life, you know, and be free to live their life and have the opportunities to live their life how they want. So it's just so important that we listen to those people and give young people particularly the opportunity to speak and demonstrate that we've actually heard through action. And that doesn't mean to say, you know, that everything that they demand just happens, of course,
or is appropriate or necessary.
Appropriate or necessary. But it's, you know, it's how do you listen? How do you go through that? Show the process of give and take. I mean, the other thing that I would pick up, like the bureaucracy around the public sector, you know, can be immensely frustrating. You know, I see, like, there does need to be more risk aversion in the public sector, because fundamentally you're spending the public's money. So you've got, you know, so, but I think that, again, like in St Neots, we've got some really good examples where you've got community interest companies that are, and community charities and groups that have got that sense of social entrepreneurship, where, you know, that's what entrepreneurship is about. That's about the risk taking. That's about let's try something out, where you can partner with the public sector to put you know, that little bit of money in to test something out. But it's not sort of the public sector taking the huge risk with people's money, and then it's like individuals. Let's try this out. Let's learn from this. If you get something that works, it's then how do you keep that dynamism going? You know, bring that thinking into the public sector. So again, you know, not to rely on just the one example too much, but it's like what the DWP will be learning from this
Pilot,
effort
yeah, that's great.
in the hub with the work coaches coming here. And there are really good ideas about how, you know, those work coaches can get out into the community and actually act more like work coaches rather than just signing off on actually coach.
Yeah, exactly.
And I must say, just shout out as well to Hannah Bell and the youth workers that work within the St Neots Town Council that pull those young people. I know, because Sam would tell me if I was wrong, we've got a good one. We've got good people that are doing good work, and also with people like Kerry Tonks at County Council that support that infrastructure. We see a lot of proactive, and we've seen it grow from nothing, literally nothing, a couple of years ago. So they're growing. So yeah, big respect where it's due again, and people will know I'm not, you know, biggest fan of councils generally, but you know, respect where it's due. So fair point. Yeah, fair point. Where do you see? So you're on like. You're in the middle, so I'm like the extreme social entrepreneurship, right? We can just figure it all out ourselves.
Yeah, no, don't need anyone else.
End, right? That's far too far, right? Keyword being social, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not full capitalist, right? You have the privilege now of sitting with Chair of St Neots Initiative, nearly a year in. It's our 30th year anniversary.
Yep.
Yeah, we're starting to mobilise that energy around, and these staying on the trend of young people. I know you and Sam have got some good plans around developing those future leaders, emerging leaders that are coming through. We've got some, I mean, Grace, who was on here earlier. How old are you, Grace? You mind me asking on public? 24, Managing Director of the Citizen Hub. We've got Sam Squire, 25, Managing Director of Inspired to Ignite. You've got young leaders, and there are two I can mention loads, and they've come through.
Things I add up to about 4 of them.
I reckon 3.
I just think you're being very unfair.
I think 3. But I know it's something you're really passionate about.
Yeah.
How can we continue that? Because I don't know. This isn't how can we do it. We're doing it. It's happening.
Yes.
I'm seeing youth engaged in this conversation around the future of place and politics more than ever before. But it's a language, so it's all good listening. It's all good talking, but it's speaking in a language that they understand. That they can see action. I think that's the bit that's interesting in the conversations you've been having with Sam.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, and a lot of the conversations that are having this morning are about joining up the dots, and us pulling people and forcing them to talk to each other, and to do the right thing. Okay, you're dealing with some infrastructures that are very, very slow and not very effective as a result of that. But okay, we'll fill those gaps. But a lot of those gaps are self-inflicted. And because people quite like the gaps that are there. And so we will continue to force people to speak to each other, and working with elements of the town council. Those that want to work with us, that's great. Those that don't, you know, wait for the election.
I love that.
But it's
See, I'm being good. I'm being good. Of all the interviews that could have been, I've been good.
I'm just trying to help you here.
Doing good.
But
I'm here for it.
But I think it is about bringing people together, and this is a great space for doing that. Be nice to have the space next door as well.
It's a story of another day.
Which is about creating another safe space for other things and bringing people together from the commercial world. You know, whether it's the banks and the post office and other elements like that. So I think that's a lot of the work we do, which is a bit unseen. But without doubt, just in those few months that I've been involved, we're seeing change happen, and that's the motivating thing. And who'd have thought that out of a conversation that we had a year ago, we might be even talking about, I mean, within a year of us just chatting casually about the high street and things disappearing, we may actually have a finance hub in the town. And it's taken probably 6 months to get from here's an idea to actually we've bid for a building.
So that is amazing.
And this is it.
Do you know what's so nice about this is that you've got the community, you've got the infrastructure, you've got the gatekeepers. Do you know what I mean? And when I say gatekeepers, I mean that with the greatest respect, i.e. you have the change at the top because that's where you frequent. And it seems like such a lovely flow. Yeah. So if we do get the finance hub, you can stop my mum from whining at me about the fact that there is no
it's a huge
bank And my mum is still on her phone like this, right? So when I go, Mum, you can put the check in using your phone, she goes... And that is black speak for don't be stupid. All right? It's not happening. Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. So I hope it happens, because if she can come and speak to someone and give them a check and they can put it in the bank, thank you. Well,
So what's really powerful about this, and it works across all levels, and it's not just an exclusive St Neots Initiative conversation.
no,
right?
it's replicable, right?
All of it is. In any micro part of this town or any part of this country, and I travel this country on a weekly basis, see all sorts. You know, I'm in Cornwall, I'm in Grimsby, I'm in Glasgow, I'm on every bit of this cities, towns, you name it. You see it everywhere. And what's really powerful about this is, again, the signals, right? So we went out to market. Again, no marketing budget. We've got no money. We're non-profit. We've got no money. We've got no money at all, right? But we can, because we know the town. We are the town. We're part of it. I'm born and raised there. This is our town. So we can get information out like wildfire. So we had 660 odd responses to the banking survey within weeks.
Oh, it's
You know,
amazing.
people flocking, and that's because we've got brilliant people. I see a couple of nodding around there. Would have been out there championing these sort of things. The churches, the sports clubs, the barber, the taxi driver, and we spread information like this, and it comes back in. And you go, okay, cool, that's a signal. We know what we're doing. We could do something about that. And then we've got philanthropists, entrepreneurs, some of which you'll see on the studio today, and you just do these things, and it's wonderful. So if you're going to take something from this, because we must wrap up on this one. If you're going to take something from this, where there's opportunity in whatever capacity it is that you feel that you can, show up for that conversation.
Yep.
That could be a local election that needs more hands in the air. Because I started as chair of S&I because no one else put their hand up. Honestly,
Alex,
so silly. How many times has that happened?
I was the AGM person at school because of that. I was the clerk at Brownies because of that. Because I'd watch and they go, "Oh, we need a new chair," and I'd be doing this, and then suddenly my hand, I'd be like, "Where did that
I know."
And they always say, and I was busy, I was running businesses and stuff like that. But you always find the time to do it, because if you want to see it happen and no one else does it, you always find a way to do it yourself.
And it's so worth it.
It is so worth it.
I can't like volunteering. So we got to meet the King at the end of last year. It was very lovely.
Oh.
That was all through the power of volunteering. That was all through the power of volunteering. That the value that brings to your life by contributing to your society, and even if it's an hour's meeting, a quarter or whatever it is, it's worth it. Whether it be governor at the school, whether it be treasurer, whatever the role you play, or counsellor or whatever, put your hand up, because you never know who you might meet eventually.
It's very true.
Amen. Right, I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for spreading that space with us.
Again.
Thank you,
Nice
Ian,
to
for
see
what
you
you're doing.
again.
Thanks, gents.
Cool. Okay.
Round of applause for our guests. Thank you.
You can just move it out of the way, that's it. Thank you, Ian. Nice to meet you. Yeah, take care. See you soon. See you soon, Ian.
Awesome. Big shout as well, because Ian's going to go over to see